In the past, the Tractive team developed at WP the ESA systems for the oil-cooled BMW. Since 2010, Tractive Suspensions supplies electronic shock absorbers for motorbikes, race cars and snowmobiles. For this conversion we use a new Tractive damper and a new spring chosen for the rider weight. On the workbench you see the damper conversion kit on the left. In the tool set on the right you will recognize a spring press and basic tools. It also requires Loctite 243 or similar. We will do an ESA conversion of a shock made by WP Suspension for the oil-cooled BMW R1200GS and the R1200GS Adventure. First, we check if the original shock is made by WP or by Showa. The shock on the left is made by WP, on the right by Showa. This can be seen either on the sticker, either from the shape of the shock absorber body just below the upper eyelet. WP has a conical shape, Showa has a flat shape. Either from the plastic cover from the EPA. The cover with the ESA logo is a Showa shock. This video treats the conversion of WP shocks. For Showa shocks, please check the right video. The Tractive damping units can be used for both versions. Check the orientation of the EPA towards the upper eyelet by measuring or photographing. After the conversion, the EPA needs to be put in the same orientation. Loosen the set screw of the EPA. This screw can in some instances be stuck, so act carefully. Maybe use a flame torch to break the Loctite connection. In case it is hard to remove the set screw completely, you can also remove it a bit, disassemble the shock and then remove it from the other side after disassembling the shock absorber. Use a professional spring press only when you are a sufficiently trained technician. Use safety glasses. Mount the shock upside down firmly in the spring press. When mounting, make sure the cable does not get pinched. Make sure that the spring press tool parts only press down on the spring. From the disassembled components, we will only use the original EPA, the plastic protection cover and its bolts. We use the damper conversion kit and a new spring. Use a spring fitting to the weight of the customer. Measure the free spring length. Mount sequentially the upper circlip, the adapter spacer, the original EPA and the plastic spring retainer on the shock absorber body. Mount also the lower spring retainer and the circlip. Measure then the length between the two spring retainers. During measuring, make sure there is no play and the spring retainers are parallel. Now we will set the correct spring preload. The correct preload can be found in the Tractive datasheets. Make sure to add about 1 mm more to compensate for the later bump rubber compression. The upper circlip is in a groove. Every 5 mm there is another groove. The stainless steel spacers have a thickness of 1 mm. Set the correct preload by stacking some spacers on the lower spring retainer and by using the correct groove position. Never stack more than 4 spacers on the lower spring retainer. In this case, the preload has to be increased seriously and the circlip is moved one groove, 5 mm. If need be, add or remove spacers to increase or decrease the preload. In case you did not receive the shock absorber in the solo position, measure the actual extension of the EPA and add this value to the preload, minus 1 mm. Mount all the components in the right sequence and use the spring press. After assembling, check if the final length minus the original free spring length equals the correct spring preload. If not, repeat the procedure and correct the mistake with the spacers. Check the orientation of the EPA. And use a new set screw with Loctite. Be aware, for customers with off-road applications, Tractive uses other products.